News Channel 8, Washington's source for live weather around the clock.
Welcome back to News Talk. A recent report in the New York Times cast doubt on the condition called fibromyalgia. Sufferers describe it as an all-too-real condition that causes pain, fatigue, trouble sleeping, and other problems. They're firing back at the suggestion that the symptoms are imaginary. Joining us now, Francie Bremer. She and her husband, Paul Bremer, the former ambassador to Iraq, are spokespersons for the National Fibromyalgia Association. Welcome. It's good to see you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Also with us is Dr. Patrick Wood. Dr. Wood is the Chief Medical Officer at Angler Biomedical Technologies. He's also Chief Medical Advisor with the National Fibromyalgia Association. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Good to be here.
In fairness to the Times article, which I know wasn't your favorite, this isn't the first time people have cast doubt on the whole idea there is something called fibromyalgia. I remember listening to a doctor who used to do a call-in show on the radio, and he said, yeah, when doctors don't know what to say about a patient's symptoms, they say, oh, it's fibromyalgia. So this has kind of been around a while, this skepticism, this doubt.
That's true, and that extends in some part from the fact that standard laboratory and x-ray evaluations don't typically, well, they don't turn up anything that indicates the patient has fibromyalgia, and I think that causes quite a bit of the controversy associated with the disorder.
So how do we know it does exist then?
Well, we've taken pictures of it. There are multiple laboratory abnormalities that can be demonstrated. They're invasive. They involve looking at cerebrospinal fluid, the fluid that surrounds the brain and spinal cord. But neuroimaging studies have shown that patients with fibromyalgia respond to painful stimuli differently in their brain. We have found out recently that the fibromyalgia brain is atrophic or shrunken in certain areas. The fibromyalgia brain appears not to make as much dopamine or release it appropriately during stimulation. So there's several things that are going on that, that distinguish the fibromyalgia patient from somebody who's healthy.
Are you saying that, you know, if we could quantify pain in some way, that the same amount of pain in one person feels worse than the same amount in someone who doesn't have the condition?
That's exactly right. It's an amplification of stimuli. So if somebody touches you and you don't have fibromyalgia, we feel like you're being touched. But if somebody touches you and you do have fibromyalgia, it feels very much louder in a sense. And that is the disorder. That's what it causes.
Ms. Bremer, what did you think when you read the article?
Oh, I was very irritated. I knew he was going to write an article. I did not know it was going to come out so strong. And I think he had an agenda basically to criticize the pharmaceutical companies, particularly the maker of Lyrica, which I believe is Pfizer, that they were just making a lot of money off of, as he put, a lot of middle-aged women with just the normal aches and pains. But it has redounded to good because it has made the fibromyalgia community so activated in response to this, including the National Fibromyalgia Association, that we are getting our story out, which is, yes, it's real. And I can testify, I've had it long before middle age. I got it in my 30s. And it's very painful and it's debilitating.
Do some people have mild cases and others intense, or is it awful kind of no matter who you are?
I don't know about that. The doctor perhaps could tell better. In my case,
what should we know? Tell us.
It comes and goes.
For folks who know nothing about it,
okay.
You're our window into this condition, so help us.
All right. It is started usually by some sort of physical trauma. In other words, you're not going to get it, you're not going to wake up with it tomorrow. But if you're in a car accident, it's often a thing. I think in the case of the woman that wrote Seabiscuit, she had a very strange, they hit a moose or something in the car, and from that point on she could not, she couldn't get out of bed, she couldn't walk down. In the case of Lynn Maddalena, who founded the National Fibromyalgia Association, her trauma was she was having surgery and woke up in the middle of the surgery. The anesthetic cut off, and then her body went into crisis mode for 2 years. The surgery was minor, but what happened to her body? In my case, my husband was a diplomat. We lived in Africa, and I had malaria twice, and recovered from that, but in later years put that as the beginning of this pain that I had.
Phone line's open if you have a question or comment about fibromyalgia. We'd love to hear from you, and it's a great opportunity for you to talk with our two guests, Francis Bremer and Dr. Patrick Wood. Phone line's open. Do dial quickly, though, so we can put you right through. Our number here is 703-387-1020. The triggering mechanism that Ms. Bremer refers to, does that strike you as interesting? And is that indeed consistent? Do the majority or all sufferers have this?
Right. It can be a physical trauma. It can be an infectious disorder like the malaria, or sometimes certain viruses may be associated with it. Sometimes it's what we call psychosocial stressors, somebody who grew up in a bad environment, made some bad decisions, got into a relationship or an employment situation that was stressful over years, and this sort of is a break point where it just all adds up and causes the changes that manifest as chronic widespread pain.
I don't diminish, knowing nothing about this, I don't diminish for a second what you're saying, but I suspect there are people at home who say you can go from a bad relationship or a stressful emotional situation to a, quote, legitimate physical symptom that causes real pain not imagined, real fatigue not imagined, real sleep issues not over emotionalizing or over self-psychoanalyzing the things that happen in life. It's not like, quote, cancer. It's not like an injury that you can look at someone's arm and say, oh my gosh, your arm, how terribly broken it is.
Right.
And you don't die of it. But it's a life sentence.
The thing is that if we say, well, my experience is different than my body, we deny the fact that if you have something, if a tiger jumps out at you, you are going to have certain chemicals released in your brain and in your bloodstream that are going to help you survive. In the short term, we call that an adaptive process that helps you to get past the stress.
Right.
But if someone were to lock you into the cage with that tiger and force you to live there day after day, those very same chemicals that help you survive in the short term actually have a very harmful effect on the brain and the body over time. And the heart, it causes heart disease. And the brain, it causes very different changes.
In a moment, let's talk about what hope, if any, medications offer. But we've got some calls. I want to work into the conversation right away. We'll start on line 1. Martha in Southeast. Thanks for watching. Go right ahead, please.
Hi. I was calling because my daughter and my 3 children, we have fibromyalgia. And we suffer from this pain. We got out through a car accident, and we've been having difficulty because we're not getting the care that we should get with fibromyalgia. Because a lot of doctors don't know, and plus, like the case that we was in, they're trying to say that, we're not having that much pain.
Was the whole family in an accident?
Yes, we was.
All right. Stay on the line for a second. Do either of you want to comment? Does this call sound common to you, or do you have any advice you want to offer?
Actually, it's not uncommon that it should run in families. So we think that there's a genetic component. People can be susceptible to it. So if the family is exposed to similar conditions, then they might have the same manifestation.
Plus similar scary and traumatic
thing. I'd like to pick up on what she said about the doctor, because
Sure.
I think this is really our agenda right now. We are having a press conference tomorrow for the National Fibromyalgia Association, and one of our causes is to educate doctors, because this woman sounds like she's really incapacitated, and a doctor has got to get her lined up for disability or give her medication. She does not have to soldier on through this.
I do want to get to the medication issue. We have about a minute left, and I think Janice in Seabrook is going to take us there. Hi, caller. Hello to you.
How you doing?
Go right ahead, please.
I just wanted to say right quick, I am a lupus patient, diagnosed with lupus in 2004, and roughly a year and a half later, fibromyalgia. And initially, I was given Cymbalta for the pain and, with the muscle pain. Then, when I was diagnosed with shingles, I was given Lyrica. I'm having a problem trying to eliminate one of the medicines because I don't know which is actually working with the fibromyalgia now.
All right.
And I didn't have the symbols. I went through a terrible.
Let me give the doctor the last 45 seconds to talk about what hope medicine might offer.
Okay. Well, we have a new medicine that's been released, first one approved by the FDA. There are several in the pipeline that are being developed that should be announced within the next year or so. It's a big interest on the part of pharmaceutical companies, and I think that the message of hope should be the one that we deliver to patients, that it's been a situation neglected, but that's changing.
Dr. Wood and Ms. Bremer, good luck to both of you. Thanks very much for coming in and talking with us about this illness.
My pleasure.
We appreciate your time very much. We'll take a break right here. We'll come back.